On Monday, we said that the Nuggets had a bad win. So tonight, the Nuggets said, no, my friend. We'll show you a bad win. This is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by my co-host, Adam Mares. You can find his work on Twitter at Adam_Mares. This is World's Finest, recapping not the world's finest win by the Denver Nuggets, but a win over the Denver Nuggets. We are back here to discuss another frustrating win. Boy, I don't know how there's this many of those this season, and at this point in the season. I want to start off by thanking you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms, and you can find us on YouTube, where you should go subscribe, like, turn on notifications, join the show, and chat. It's the best way for you to support the show. So go ahead and check out YouTube. I want to start off with a statement. I have a statement. Can I talk for a minute?
No, please.
I was wrong, and you were right. I was wrong, and you were right. This is not a good team. I shouldn't have said it was a good team. I was wrong to say it. Everyone that said it was wrong was right. I was dumb. I shouldn't have argued otherwise. I should not have tried to maintain that this is a good roster. I should not have tried to maintain this is a good team. It is literally just Nikola Jokic. And then I don't want to call them garbage. That's too harsh. But boy, am I out now on the roster after this performance.
You're probably overcorrecting now. But the thing that it's funny, because that day that you brought this up, I honestly feel like we were not really arguing. I think you wanted us to argue, and we weren't quite arguing. We were just speaking a different language. And that is that it's not that I think the roster's garbage, as people like to make the argument. I do agree with you that when we make the MVP, we start talking about how terrible every player is, not how good every player is. My point was that Jokic is the type of guy that knows how to get a lot out of players, even if they're limited, meaning I know what you can do well, and then Jokic accentuates that and brings it out and allows for those guys to do it. But teams this year, especially over the last 2 months, have been guarding the Nuggets as if the rest of the roster was not good, as if they were saying, I dare you guys to do something with this. And on nights like tonight, it's not every night. Sometimes the Nuggets, that supporting cast steps up and plays great. But nights like tonight, just the intensity level was just so ridiculous. It was so low. This was like a disrespectful effort from most of the Nuggets' starting supporting cast. But they just didn't have it. And thankfully, the Nuggets have Jokic, because this was a night where Bones and Jokic combined. And they got contributions from Aaron Gordon in the fourth. And they had some other guys do things in little pockets. But this was a night where largely Jokic and Bones, with an assist from Bones Hyland, really saved what would have been the biggest disaster of the Jokic era.
A 31-point lead gone in less than 2 quarters is miserable.
It's how fast it disappeared that was so crazy. It was
there's like a familiar theme here, which is the bench allowed that monster. Like, they allowed it to go from 31 to 20. And then the Nuggets did that same thing that they do, which is the starters came back in and were like, really? Like, really? And by that time, the Pacers had all the momentum and the Pacers were carrying it forward. But, like, I'm sorry, the bench didn't hold up your 31-point lead, but maybe get a rebound. Like, just like,
that's
you're
the
a good rebounding team, maybe grab the ball.
If they were just missing shots or, whatever, like, it'd be one thing. You'd be like, man, this team goes cold or what have you. But when you're just getting out rebounded for an entire quarter, really for 2 quarters, when it's like, hey, turnovers, we got to limit those, and rebounds, we just got to grab them. And when it's like you see it happening over and over and over again, there's a timeout, you come back out and it happens again, and there's another timeout and it happens again. Like, I hate to say it, but this was a game where I kind of questioned the heart.
Yeah.
Like, Like, we talk about winning plays. There were so many chances for guys to make winning plays in the third and fourth quarter of this one, and nobody would outside of Jokic and Bones until the fourth. And I have to give Aaron Gordon some credit. He was as frustrating as anyone because he's so athletic. He's so strong. Like, rebounding should be easy for him. And he was as horrible as anyone in that second, third quarter. But to his credit, in the fourth quarter, he started to turn it on, and he made several winning plays to sort of help save the game. But for me, it's hard for me to pat him too hard on the back because there were just so many stretches there where you thought, just get a few stops and this game's over.
Yeah. I mean, it's just because on most nights, I'm willing to be like, look, I talked about the minutes and how tired they are and the wear and tear and all of these things, and I'm sympathetic to it. Like, I get it. It's been 3 very compact seasons. The Nuggets are not suffering just like it was 2 compact seasons, and then they go into this year, and then the shit hits the fan too, and that compounds it.
It's true.
You got 6 games left. You can't lose to the Pacers. You have a 31-point lead. Get a rebound.
Coming into tonight, you could have made the argument they only had 3 games left. Honestly, like, you look at 6 games and you're right. You may want to take it game by game, but like, you took care of business tonight, and they did get the win, so they did take care of business.
I know, it's like I want to just be like, hey, they got to win, another on their franchise record and on the road.
Right.
Just like
another road win. Exactly, they extended their streak. So there is that layer of it that's hilarious. But also, like, Denver wins on Friday. They only need 1 more win and it's over. So like, that's when you said there's only 6 games. If they really lock in, there's actually only 4 more days. And then you get to take a little break, which is, I think they desperately need a little break.
Bones is great. 27 minutes, 20 points. I will like 20 points, 8 of 14, 7 assists was great in the second half, especially. Yeah. It's bad because like, there were things that he did in the second quarter stint that to me were really bad. Like, there were some sequences. There was a closeout in particular that just like bear in mind, like, I just get frustrated. I do this with like any team when it's this bad. And especially if I'm kind of like, I want good, like, because this is a very easy game to be like, look, the Pacers don't want to win this game. Right. Pacers don't want to win this game.
Early on, they definitely did not. Early on, they did not. Denver was so bad, they allowed a team that didn't want to be there to all of a sudden want to be there. That's how bad they were. But to your point about Bones, I did think Michael Malone was going to bench him at one point. I remember he called a timeout, and I was like, man, I really hope he sticks with Bones here because I hate the short leash. Like, did it warrant Malone being upset? Yes, it was like a blown rotation or a blown. I can't remember what it was, and I was worried. So to your point, there was a moment there, but this was a game where, when things went south, it became one of those things like, who are my guys? It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly. Who are my guys that are going to help us win ugly? And Bones made so many ugly plays.
Yeah.
I mean that good. Like, hey, we just got to do something up, grabbed rebounds, ran guys off the line, like just toughness. And it was great to see, honestly, because we've seen that from Bones in little pockets. But this was the first time we've kind of seen that in a way that won them the game.
This game on the other levels that it's frustrating, much like the Raptors game, where it's like, get a freaking rebound, right? And you want to I want to be just like, guys, you cannot be giving up this many second chance points, especially not to this team. Like, you can't give up 23 second chance points. But then, like, on the other hand, it's like they never do this. Like, they're the number 1 defensive rebounding team in the league.
It's so funny though, Matt, because this has actually happened a handful of times, because you're right. Like, in aggregate, they do. It's weird that in little pockets they don't. And I mean, we saw that obviously against Toronto, who's a good offensive rebounding team. Indiana's a good offensive rebounding team. So some of this is you're meeting strength versus strength. But so to your point, in aggregate, they're a good defensive rebounding team, but they have lost games this year because of their defensive rebounding.
Yeah, right. But I think that's like another great example of how this team has zero margins for error, which is why, like, you can't have these kind of performances.
That's true.
You're just not good enough to have these stretches. You're just not, and again, I know that they're exhausted. I try and be sympathetic here. It's just like, guys, this team wants to lose.
They truly did.
Like the players don't. The front office is they had 10 guys on injured reserve. They had to activate a player that couldn't play so that they had enough guys available.
Right.
Like, and that's fine. That's part of the season. Like, the Pacers season's over. You get a 31-point lead. How? Like,
Yeah.
they're not the only thing that you could do is open the door. Is if you just be like, well, I'm not going to really try. If you give them those kinds of opportunities, any NBA team is going to take advantage of it. Like,
Yeah.
Terry Taylor's playing to get a deal. Like, all these players on the Pacers are looking to improve their stock for a contract. And so it's just crazy to me that I think that's kind of the difference is, like, I look at the long scope of these players' careers and I go, there's talent on this roster. But if I look at how they've played this season, and especially if we say, like, this is who those players are now and going forward,
Yeah.
it's not good enough. It's just not.
Yeah.
And that, maybe it's good enough with MPJ and Jamal. We don't know. But we know, like, what they have now. And it's, again, I don't want to be on here after a win. Like, I don't want to be on here after a win being,
This is the ultimate, like, game of the season, to be honest, where it's like they won. To your point earlier, they furthered their record for most road wins tonight. They got the win. They all but secured, knock on wood, a spot in the playoffs. They moved up to the top of the division. They're winning the division. I know divisions don't mean anything, but it's still meaningful that they're missing their guys and they're number one in the division. That's still crazy.
It's
Especially
crazy.
you talk about a Utah team that's all in. Like, it's crazy, but yet it still feels unsatisfying and unfulfilling. And I think the reason for that is twofold. One is because I think everybody in the back of their mind is still, including us, is still feeling sort of the letdown of, we thought this season was going to end differently. Like, we thought it would. We thought the story being told was different than the one that's kind of is being told.
Yeah.
So there's
we
that.
We thought it would be like, this is going to be a battle, but they're going to get better as the year goes on.
Oh yeah, the end. You just hold the door, and then we get there, and it just, maybe it is. Like, honestly, maybe it is, and we can talk in the next segment about why this win maybe it helps for that, makes that even more possible.
Honestly,
hold up. Go ahead. I was gonna say, this is the thing though. The reason this game is frightening to me is that if we look at it now, 5 games away from the playoffs, and you say, like, are the Nuggets building habits that give you any confidence that they can win a first round playoff series? And you look at that and you go, like,
this has been Ryan's thing. Ryan's been on this for months about building championship habits. And I was like, you just got to survive and then make it to the end of it and then get healthy. And then you can start working on that.
Maybe because you are big on this, that wins in April don't necessarily translate to playoffs, like March and April. Everybody thinks it does, like, who has the momentum. But the truth is the playoffs really do kind of reset things. And right now that feels good. Right now you hear that and you go, thank God, because they're not really champions.
Well, I mean, this is what I was going to say, is just, like, honestly, if they go in and they knock off, if, like, they win the 3-6 series, I might be more mad. Like, I might be, like, more frustrated with it. Be like, really? You blow a 31-point lead to the Pacers and barely escape by the skin of your teeth, and then you do this? And
you're going to have the Nets and the Nuggets and the Clippers all in the second round, and you're going to be like, well, what was the point of the season again?
Exactly. The Nuggets are doing that thing that you love, which is they're proving that the regular season doesn't matter. That's that's like that is one of the things that I do kind of, like, think about, though, is as much as we can go over all this stuff in the moment, I have kept that in mind the whole way through, which is, and, like, I've made this point on the fan post game show from time to time, which is, would you rather they look bad now, or would you rather they look bad in the playoffs? And I think the problem is now is that we're kind of like, we have no reason to, like, if they're good in the playoffs, it's because this team is indecipherable and a complete sphinx to try and figure out. Like, if I try and build a logical case for what this team's going to do in the postseason, I'm like, 5 games, maybe.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh,
by the way, by the by, just so we throw this out there, just for giggles, 37 points,
barely talked about you.
9 assists, 2 steals, 15 of 19 from the field. Another game with no 3-pointers taken, by the way.
The contrast between Jokic and his supporting cast today was hilarious. Like, honest to God, just was like, I can't believe this guy is this good.
But here's one of the things, though. Like, he was amazing in that first quarter, but they also were like, the starters did come out and were like they were part of getting that lead. Like, they weren't playing badly in that first quarter.
Oh, no. You're right. Well, I mean, a lot of you're right.
But then they just went to the bench and were like,
yeah,
our work here is done.
they definitely took their foot off the gas after that, other than Jokic, who I thought continued to play pretty well despite the turnovers. But yeah, like just on Jokic, like tonight was one of those games where you're just like, this has happened a lot this year, where you watch a possession and you're like, if they can just get the ball to Jokic, this will be okay. Like on any given possession, like just get it to him. And then like when they don't, you're like, what the heck? And they'll go 2 or 3 possessions where they can't get him the ball in the spot, or they get it to him, but they don't, there's no cutting, there's no spacing. And then they'll get a possession where they do it and he just like lays it up as the easiest layup you've ever seen in your life. And you're like, why did you go away from him for 3 possessions? He just turned around and shot a layup. It's right there.
Right. Final thing before we wrap up this thing, and we'll go to the break. We'll talk about the rest of the Western Conference and where the Nuggets are at, and we'll get into magic numbers. That ejection was embarrassing.
Is there a case to be made? Because I agree. I'm honestly trying to figure out what happened, but is there a case to be made, like if you fake punch a guy, like if you just like ball your fist, you could get a tech, even though you didn't punch, just because you raised your fist? And is maybe Tony Brothers saying that he raised his elbow as if he were going to hit him in the mouth? I still think that even if that was his argument, that's thin. But I actually, on replay, I don't even think that's what Austin Rivers did.
No. So I'll say this. The NBA changed a rule a couple of years ago. It was a Dwight Howard rule. They changed the rule that if you swing,
if you grab the rebound and do this,
even if you don't make contact, it's an ejection. They changed that rule. Austin was in triple threat position trying to clear space and didn't even follow through with it. Like, look, I'll say this: the Pacers broadcast is honestly, it's pretty even keeled. It's one of my favorite broadcasts in the league. But like, the Pacers broadcast was like, "That's garbage. That is a garbage ejection."
Wow, good on them. Good on them. I will say this though. Here's what's funny. In my mind, Lance Stevenson was so annoying, and he was like rattling up the crowd, get everything going. I look at the box score, minus 27 in 13 minutes.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll talk about the Western Conference after the Nuggets win over the Pacers and where that puts them in the Western Conference standings. I'll talk about magic numbers, scenarios, all that and more. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I need to tell you about Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. If you're looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA, you've got to try the award-winning app Prize Picks. It's daily fantasy made easy. It's easy to use because you just pick 2 to 5 players and over/under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on an entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. I took the over on Luka Doncic assists tonight and the over on Dwight Powell scoring tonight at 9.5, and the reason was the Wolves play at the level like the Nuggets used to do primarily, which means lots of passes from Luka out of the pocket, lots of slips for Dwight Powell. Both of those cashed, cha-ching. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. And Prize Picks is safe, and they offer fast withdrawals. You can think of any prop, and they'll have it for you. Points scored, rebounds, steals. You can do stocks. Prize Picks allows mixed sport entries. You can throw in Cale Makar. How about some Cale Makar props? Because Cale Makar is amazing. And Prize Picks doesn't just offer NBA. They got options on the college basketball, college football, NFL, MLB, which is back, soccer, MMA, and more. And for a limited time, Prize Picks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for our users. You get $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point, but you got to use code NBA. Exclusive offer. You get $50 for free if a player in your Prize Picks scores a single point. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day here on Locked On Nuggets. We're free and available on all platforms. Make sure your second listen is Locked On Now, which has got nightly recaps of all the games around the NBA from our panel of local hosts. Check it out on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. It's Locked On Now. We've already got 100 comments in the chat tonight, Adam, because we're not doing this at 1 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, it's just a bumping. It's a lively environment. We're great to have you guys with us. It's so cool we're doing this live. It's great to have everybody chiming in. The guy that hates me hasn't popped in tonight, so that's always a refreshing change of pace. Let's talk about magic numbers, because that's my bag. All right, so the Nuggets entered the night with a magic number of 5. They won and the Wolves lost, so that counts as 2. So it's now down to 3. If the Nuggets win on Friday, guess what? That's a win and a Timberwolves loss. That makes it all the way down to 1. So essentially, I will say this: if the Nuggets win on Friday, that's it. I will call it. That's it. The Nuggets are going to be in the play-in. Now,
if they
the
win,
Jazz,
all
I
they
don't
would
know
have
about.
to do after that is beat the Lakers one time, Memphis one time, or San Antonio one time. I mean, they're going to get one of those.
Or the Wolves have a random slip-up game.
Or the Wolves lose. Yeah.
One of those will absolutely happen. So in my opinion, if they win Friday, like in my experience, it's done. It's possible they could collapse. Definitely, we've talked about how not good the team is, so we could talk. That's definitely possible. We'll talk about this in the final segment. If they secure a play-in spot, I will tell you, I think Nikola Jokic wins MVP. That's the only thing I think standing in his way is a potential play-in spot.
We'll get to that next segment.
We'll get that in the final segment. Elsewhere in the NBA tonight, the Memphis Grizzlies got the win. They have secured the number 2 seed in the Western Conference.
Was that not secured?
That is now locked in. The Memphis Grizzlies are the 2 seed. Can't go up or down. The Grizzlies also, my Memphis Grizzlies, congratulations to them. They celebrate their first division title in franchise history.
That's crazy.
Tiny flag. Because all those years with grit grind, they still had to deal with the Spurs. That's what happens when
the machine of the Spurs. Yeah.
A great stat from Fast Break Breakfast tonight. He was talking about the Grizzlies have now won 7 straight versus the Spurs. So they've only got to win 21 more to match the streak that San Antonio once had on the Memphis.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's just ridiculous. So the Dallas Mavericks also get the win. The Mavericks, with that win, and because they own the tiebreakers over the Wolves and the Nuggets, and I think not the Jazz, but they would win the 3-way ties. They have clinched a playoff spot. So the Dallas Mavericks are locked. We currently have 3 seeds locked. The first seed is locked with the Phoenix Suns. The second seed is locked with the Memphis Grizzlies. And the Dallas Mavericks.
Why is Dallas locked and Golden State's not? Why is
because
that?
tiebreaker. Golden State loses some of the tiebreaker scenarios.
Okay, interesting.
And Memphis or Golden State, I'm sorry, is down 3 with 13 seconds left to Phoenix after leading by 1 a couple of seconds ago. And so it looks like the Warriors are going to lose. They still will not have locked a playoff spot. They will go to 29 losses. The Nuggets will be 2 back of the Warriors in the loss column.
This is insane, man. I can't believe the Warriors. Wow.
Yeah, so Denver is now a half game up on the Utah Jazz, who, boy, that was a bad loss last night. Boy.
Their loss was like if Denver lost tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so now I'll tell you this, like Denver's probably is not going to catch Dallas. So a top 3 seed is not doable. I would not rule out the 4 spot given where Utah's at mentally and where the Golden State's at physically. Like I'm just telling you, it's entirely possible that Memphis winds up in the 4 or that Denver winds up in the 4-5. That to me is a
Dallas played Milwaukee, which I think they will probably lose. That's 1 loss. Yeah, there's no other losses there. Washington, Detroit, Portland, San Antonio. Yeah. So you're right. Denver's not going to pass Dallas.
When we get to this point, honestly, a lot of this is that like you're looking at the schedule and you're like, they're not going to lose to that team. And like in my experience, I'm like, well, I've seen them. Like I see a lot of weird happen down the stretch.
They would have to have 2 of those.
It's the math that really matters to me in this regard. So like Dallas's magic number for home court in the first round for a top 4 seed is down to 5. And that seems like, well, that's like a lot of games with 5 games remaining. But when you look at all the tiebreaker scenarios that they own, it's really 4. And now you're getting into a scenario where it's like, all right, is Dallas going to really lose that many? And at the same time, is Denver going to be able to pass them? Like, that's the question. I think like when you look at Denver's schedule, I think they can win the game versus the Wolves on Friday, despite how bad they've played the last 2 games. They can definitely win. I think they're going to clinch a playoff spot, but I don't think that they're going to be able to catch Dallas given how Dallas has played. They've beaten some pretty good teams. Josh Winninger says, "How is Dallas so good?" No one knows. I'm not kidding you. Not even the people that cover Dallas really know. Our good friend Kirk doesn't understand it either. Like, there's really no explanation for how good Dallas is. It's basically Luka and surprisingly good defense. That's pretty much it. So, right now, I would say that if you ask me to project the Western Conference, I would say it's going to be 1 Phoenix that's locked, 2 Memphis that's locked, 3 Dallas, 4 Utah, and then
you think Utah's locked? They're not locked. I mean, yeah, 3 games. I guess they could. I mean, they've
They're
lost
not
5 in a row, man. That team.
So here's the question. They're 11.5-point favorites versus the Lakers without LeBron tomorrow.
I mean, that they should be.
So they win that one, and like the number changes pretty, like that makes a big difference there. That drops that moves them into like 4 for a playoff spot outright. They're going to gain a game on Denver or Minnesota no matter what, right? That's one of the things is all of those teams, they all gain a game on either Denver or Minnesota on Friday. Like they gain a.
Oh, right. Yeah, correct. Yep.
Yeah. So they're in a pretty decent spot. Again, I will maintain that probably what you want is to stay in the 6 just for a number of reasons. But I will say at this point, if the Nuggets stay in 6, I expect them to face the Dallas Mavericks in the 3 seed.
I agree. I think Dallas is going to be the 3.
And boy, I don't know that I'm going to be able to.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Denver right now hasn't exactly inspired a ton of confidence, but what?
No. I don't think Denver right now has inspired any confidence. I don't know, like
any confidence.
They have the MVP, and I do not feel like there is a good chance of them getting.
Well, I mean, part of this is Jokic going to play 40 minutes a night in the playoffs, which is great. It means they're usually pretty good there. I don't know. I mean, look, Denver, they're frustrating. Here's a characteristic of them. They do tend to play better against the good teams and worse against the bad teams. Even though they win this year, even though they pull the wins out against the bad teams, we still saw them against the Suns look very good. And we saw them beat the Bucks, and we've seen them do this especially lately. So maybe come playoffs, they're just more dialed in and play a little bit better. I think the big thing, though, Matt, that you haven't mentioned yet, the Nuggets take care of business on Friday and all but secure them being in the playoffs, not the play-in. I don't know if Jamal Murray and Michael Porter even have I think there's still a chance for both of them. I still do. And if you get to that point, I think there's a little bit of an opportunity to say, all right, no pressure now. We get to play these guys. We get to see how they look. And it's the first time all year where the wins and losses wouldn't matter. So you could afford to experiment a little bit there. And I wonder if it almost would up the odds of a Jamal Murray return if you did get this full week to experiment with it. And another part, and then I want to hear your opinion on this. Paul George came back last night, had a monster game, just an insane game after missing 40 games. Half of the season he missed. He comes back, has a monster game, and he comes down to the court afterwards for the interview, and he talks about Mamba mentality. Why did he come back? He almost didn't, but then he thought about Mamba mentality. What would Kobe do? And I didn't want to leave my team hanging. And it just reminded me that sometimes you have to play hurt in this league. Now, he's a veteran. He's old, whatever. But I just know everybody on earth saw that interview yesterday. Everybody on earth saw that performance. And I just wonder if there's a little bit of that sitting at home going, a reminder of the other end of the spectrum, the other perspective. One perspective is don't come back too early, don't force it, don't play too hard. And the other perspective is maximize every window you have, no matter how tiny it is. And because you never want to take this game for granted. And I wonder if that had any impact on a Jamal Murray and or Michael Porter Jr.
I think it's possible. I thought the videos from Singer pregame were interesting in that MPJ and Jamal were warming up, and they were warming up a little bit harder.
Yep.
I noted it. Singer did report this week the MPJ suffered a setback. You and I had heard rumors of that as well.
I had heard that. I don't even want to call it rumor. I had heard that. But it was as I wanted to clarify, that was a setback that's not new. He didn't set a setback this week. He had a setback earlier this month, probably somewhere 3 or 4 weeks ago.
And we know that because they talked about it and released a statement, and we're very transparent with that. So we were able to communicate that information clearly to the fans.
Right.
Oh, wait, no, none of that happened. 0% of that happened. And look, I get it to a degree. My only thing in regards to that, again, this is not like he suffered a setback, so now he's not coming back. That's not what's out there. My only thing though is he was ramping up, suffered a setback. If there's any setback, like I would be like, no, come on, let's not risk this. Like you just cannot risk you
want to know why I disagree with you? I mean, first of all, it takes a doctor to say this. Like, I have no idea. They're going to talk to their doctors, and maybe there is, maybe you do have to play it safe. Here's my wonder with Michael Porter. is this just who he is? Like, are there going to be setbacks and sore days and sore months with him? And I kind of suspect that there will be. And I just wonder if they get to a point where they talk to him and they're like, look, man, 3 back surgeries, kind of a freak athlete, so such a unique body. This is uncharted territory. He comes back now. He comes back next year. I don't know. He's probably going to have this. So if you have a pocket right now and you can play him for 1 month while you finish the season and go into the playoffs, yeah, maybe that's great. Maybe that's perfect. And then he gets to rest over the summer. I just wonder if that's going to be the Michael Porter story for his career now after 3 surgeries of he's healthy now. He's very likely to have some setbacks that will pop up here or there, and it'll take him out for a week, a month, whatever. And the team just has to deal with that. And if that's the case, I say bring him back if he's healthy and wants to come back.
Okay, I don't blame you on that front. I think those are all good points. I think the context of his career is important, so I can concur on that front. The only game tomorrow that has any relevance for the Nuggets is Lakers at Jazz, and that one just you're hoping that the Lakers are able to pull off a miracle / the Jazz have another collapse. And if they do, it certainly gets interesting. If the Jazz were to lose that game, they would be at 32 losses to Denver's 31, and Denver would be a full game up in the standings, which, by the way, they were, I looked this up, they were like 16-1 to win the division over the weekend. And now they're
technically ahead. Yeah.
Now they're technically ahead. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
But I want to go back to this one point and just ask you your perspective of, I think we often think about these things in terms of like, there's going to be so many opportunities. I think with Michael Porter in particular, one, I just don't know that. Like, he's talked openly about his career. Probably he'll retire around 30, 31. Like he's kind of knows that. And then 2, with his next back surgery, maybe it's even shorter. And just how many playoff runs do you have in you? I think we sometimes take for granted the like, oh, there'll be so many more. When the truth is, who knows? Maybe there's 2 more. And
I think the problem is is this going to be a real playoff run? That's where I get to is I just don't know what a not I don't know, what percentage do you think he can get back to? 190, whatever you think he can get to.
Obviously that's big, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that they're on a free roll.
They're not on a free roll. I'm arguing the opposite. I'm just saying that you get so few chances in life. And I think we're all kind of like, there'll be plenty more. And I'm just saying, we don't know that. We don't know that there'll be plenty more. This might actually be the best chance. I probably won't be, but it actually has a good chance of being one of the 3 or 4 best chances that you'll have.
Yeah, I get maximizing it, especially given what Nikola is doing. I get it. I think it's difficult. I'll be honest with you. I think for me, I look at it more as what's your situation right now. Like, honestly, I think tonight's a good example of, the guys, the Hates Me is back.
I put him in timeout.
I think where I get to, you're interested in, like, you want to maximize the window, which I get. I think you got to make sure that you do everything you can to get not the best shot, but a good shot. And I don't know that right now I can say they have a good shot. Like, this roster at this point in the season, with where these guys look now, with a compromised Jamal and MPJ, and that's part of it is, if you go and you get ran, what's the commentary coming out of it? It could be good because it could be like, hey, they were right there. They got into 7 games in the first round series, versus the Mavericks. Luka hit an incredible shot. You can live with that. Or it could be like they upset the Mavericks. They got to the second round. They ran out of steam versus Memphis, who just ran them ragged, whatever. Like I'm not saying it can't happen, but I look at that versus is putting next year in any risk worth that percentage chance? And I to be honest with you, I'm getting a little like triggered because it's just like, I don't want to think about risk management after the last 3 years of our lives. Right. But that's a lot of this.
Yeah. My personal opinion is that any outcome that does not involve a player getting hurt is a good one. So even if they come back and the Nuggets lose, to me, that's a good outcome because it's like, hey, Jamal and Michael Porter were part of the failure, and that ties the team together.
Yeah, I think most people are in line with what you think. I think most people are in line with your perspective on this. I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't have any sort of like, I can't parse this.
Yeah, it's really tough. It's really tough.
So I just don't know. Let's take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about a little straw poll to drop this week. And we'll talk about the impact of what that means on the MVP race and Nikola Jokic and all of that. We'll do that when we come back on Locked On Nuggets. But first, I need to tell you about Built Bar. So, Built Bar is delicious. It's amazing. And the only thing that's more amazing than Built Bar is the puffs, which are protein-infused marshmallow. You can get them in great flavors like churro and coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They're covered in 100% real chocolate. Real chocolate! It's like a candy bar, except a candy bar's got, sometimes you're going to run into like 340 calories, 30 grams of sugar, dozens of net carbs. Most Built Bars have only got 130 calories, just 4 grams of sugar, and just 4 net carbs. That's with 17 grams of protein. It's amazing. Pop one in your bag, take it with you to work, pull it on out, have that as a snack. You can get it after you work out. That's what I do oftentimes. If you're on the go, have a Built Bar with you. It's going to be great. The regular bar flavors like mint brownie, coconut, and coconut almond, so many great flavors are coming out with new ones all the time. Check them all out at built.com. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Welcome back to Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making this part of your day and your first listen each and every day. Make sure you check out Locked On NBA. I host on Tuesdays with David Ramil, and Adam hosts on Fridays with Wes Goldberg. And it's a great show. It's a great time. Get our perspectives on league-wide stuff. Check it out wherever you get podcasts. It's Locked On NBA. All right, Adam. So last Friday, I published an article on Action Network, and I had a straw poll of 15 voters, and 10 of them.
Of 15 voters. This is why this is important. The straw poll from ESPN includes non-voters like myself. But what Matt did was voters.
Yeah, 15 voters. 10 votes for Nikola Jokic first. 4 votes for Giannis Antetokounmpo first. Wow. 1 vote for Joel Embiid first.
Wow.
Giannis had, I believe, 12 of the second place votes. And it was after I wrote that, that I wrote the following. I wrote that the odds market was wrong. That the market, which had, and it had,
I think it's double wrong.
It had it is double wrong. It had swollen over the weekend all the way to on Monday. Joel Embiid was minus 200 at some shops to win the MVP. I have been betting Nikola pretty consistently. I've also been betting Giannis Antetokounmpo pretty consistently. I've been betting them in parlays with Evan Mobley to win Rookie of the Year. I had to add in some Scotty Barnes this week because there's a little bit of a late push for him. And various parlays, the market was wrong, and that's what I wrote about. I was polled, as you were, by Tim Bontemps of ESPN about his poll, which came out on Tuesday. I mean, I knew it was coming out on Tuesday. We teased it here on the show. And I asked him for if I could give a sneak at the results, and he was like, sorry, I can't do it. I was like, but I figured I had a lot of confidence that the poll that I did would reflect the results, and sure enough, it did. Nikola Jokic with a pretty, I would say, a substantial lead.
I would agree. Yep.
It for MVP.
Lead.
I would say that this week has done nothing to dissuade that. Even though the Nuggets have played badly, Jokic has done the thing. And when Jokic has done the thing, they've still gotten the wins. There is an increasing perception of the thing that I don't like, which is Nikola Jokic should get it because his team sucks. I hate that argument. I think there's much better arguments for Nikola. I will say that that's probably going to be the reason that he wins the MVP. Giannis is
I disagree. It's not necessarily that the players suck or this or that. I think it's that they are going to hit their over, and that over factored in them having 2 key players they did not have. That's just such an amazing feat to be like, they actually did what Vegas thought they would do, just they didn't have their guys to do it other than in the supporting cast. Like, to me, that's why they would do it, and that's legitimate.
Yeah, I agree. Now, look, I don't think that's bad, right? It's when people are like, look at this cast of characters around him. that I'm like, look, it's not, because my big thing, the reason I came down on this was a couple of years ago. It was during the Russ year when it was like, look at what Russ is doing with this OKC team. By the way, a lot of those guys would go on to have like really successful careers, but it was like, look what Russ is doing with this OKC team. And I'm like, it's not James Harden's fault that Daryl Morey put a better team around him. Like, honestly, it's not Joel Embiid's fault that he's got Tyrese Maxey, James Harden, Matisse Thybulle. Like, that doesn't make how Joel plays worse. And furthermore, you can make this argument, and I'm going to in the next couple of days. You don't have to do that in order to prove that what these guys do on the floor is what matters, and that Jokic is still not just better, but I'm sorry, it's considerably better. This is going to get to be a very frustrating week for me because I've tried really hard to find like the argument for Embiid. And I knew that when voters started to look at it, they were going to run into the same problem. I think Embiid had a lot of momentum in the last straw poll and over the last couple of weeks because voters hadn't really like narrowed in and done it. Because most voters like you are like, I don't want to pay attention to MVP in January. Like, there's so much season left. Most people are like that. Doesn't really matter what I think of that. Like, that's how most people are. And when you get to the end of the year and you start digging in and you look at the objective cases for these guys, and I'm not just talking metrics because, spoiler alert, I'm going to make the argument for Nikola without using advanced metrics.
Perfect.
I'm going to make the argument without it. If you do all this and you look at from any objective measure and you do factor in that, okay, Simmons was out, and regardless of Embiid's role in that, Simmons was out, and that's a big loss. He lost an all-star. But Nikola was without his two next best players, and the drop-off has been significant, and they had injuries after that.
Yeah, that's the thing, is they weren't even healthy after that. They missed guys for such a big time.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, if you look at everything, I can't make the case that Joel Embiid has been more impactful, because that's how I judge MVP, as who's the most impactful player in the league. And to me, there's two names, and it's Nikola Jokic and it's Giannis.
I agree. And this is why I said I think they're double wrong, and I think it's been this way for a while. Like, look, you mentioned the Embiid thing. I actually think Embiid was so high because of his monster January. I really think it was that. Like, every night it was a crazy new stat line. You go back and look at some of the opponents there. There's something in common. They played like 15 to 17 games against non-playoff teams. There was like a ridiculous stretch, and I think that's part of it. But I'm with you. To me, I think that Jokic and Giannis are actually 1-2 in some order, is how it's going to shake out, and also how it should shake out. And when we get some separation from the season, we look back at it historically, I think it's going to be a lot more clear that those were the two that actually should have been going toe to toe.
I'm going to be very curious to see how much Tuesday's game impacted second place votes. You know, it's again, I'm going to maintain this. The result between the Nuggets and the Sixers, I said going in, no matter who won, I don't think that there's Embiid is 0 for 2 versus MVP candidates in the last 3 weeks.
They were big games. Like, you can go ahead and say it. And it's actually 3 big games because you count the Brooklyn game there. Those were all measuring stick games for the 76ers. They were all big games with a lot of eyeballs.
That matters. So there's a difference between that, right? It's like big game versus head-to-head MVP candidates. Those are two different contexts,
totally,
right?
Totally.
Like, it's not Giannis.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's not Giannis beat Embiid, so Giannis is a better MVP candidate. That's not how this works. I will tell you, I was at the, I think were you at the Russ game when he clinched the triple-double? Okay.
Yes.
That was one of the most amazing games I've ever been at. Yeah. It was also incredible to literally watch. I talked to voters before the game and after the game and watch that game single-handedly swing them. Yeah. And I try really hard to never be impacted by that. I want the whole body of work.
It's true, because that was such a storybook moment for Westbrook, sadly, at the expense of Denver. It was so storybook that it almost gives you this well, come on. I mean, look at the story.
And so look, here's the thing though, is I try really hard not to be the whole body of work. Giannis's performance shook me pretty bad. Watching that 15-point straight third to fourth quarter and the game-winning block. Goddamn, Giannis is good.
He's incredible. I honestly think this is when we talk about best player, I think he has the best case for best player, just based on what he did in the finals last year and really throughout the whole playoffs. But MVP is obviously a different conversation. But yes, here's the thing that impresses me about Jokic and about Giannis. I believe this wholeheartedly about both players. They are willing to do the thing that can make them look bad. if it means winning. And I think they have that in levels and to degrees that no other player does. And you saw that in Giannis in that game, willing to take the jumpers, willing to go up for the block, willing just to put himself in harm's way repeatedly if it meant a 1% better chance at a win. And it's, to me, that is the thing. I put this out yesterday as my tweet as I'm watching that game. Giannis makes winning plays. There's spectacular plays. There's talented plays. There's all these different ways. But winning plays are a little bit different. Sometimes they're less remarkable. They're more subtle. Giannis just makes so many of them. Jokic makes so many of them. And Embiid's a fantastic player. Anytime we do this, it almost makes it sound like you're talking about, and this guy sucks at it. No, like, Embiid's awesome. He's awesome.
Embiid deserves third.
Embiid deserves the third. But I honestly think when we just talk about, when we get up to here and we start talking about the margin, those margins to me are winning plays. And I just think that those other two guys are just a cut above him personally.
I mean, look, it says something that in the comments, and Nuggets fans are understandably like, they want their guy, right? Like this is a thing for Nuggets fans. And like everyone in the comments is just like, man, Giannis is amazing. And this is amazing about Giannis. And this is amazing about Giannis. Like, it's very hard to find these differentials. The case for Embiid for a while, the best one that I could come up with was of the major candidates, you have to make that qualification first. He leads in scoring and his team had the better record. Well, now the Bucks have a better record.
Right.
For right now, it could change. And they're tied.
It's not going to change that though. I don't think they're catching the Bucks.
We'll see, and like we'll see how it goes. The Bucks have Brooklyn tomorrow, big game. We'll see, what happens. I just think even if we get past even if we get past the idea of who should win and how toxic this conversation has become, and as frustrating as the season has been, it is remarkable that the Denver Nuggets have a player who is going to finish top 2 in MVP in back-to-back seasons. And not only that, has had a better season than last year when he won. Right. He has been better in every regard. And that is amazing. He's a better defender. He's a better passer. He has more control of the game. It's incredible to have watched these 2 seasons from Nikola Jokic. It has been absolutely transcendent basketball. And the fact that it's had to come under the circumstances that it has is a bummer.
It's such a bummer.
But Nuggets fans should still be grateful that their guy, that player, a player of that magnitude, a player of that greatness, wears the uniform that they cheer for.
It's really, really freaking cool, man. It's really cool. And in some ways, I'd love for Jokic to. I think this would be his last MVP, in part because he's such a team player, and as you get better players back, hopefully it gets.
He doesn't want to put these up. He doesn't want to put these.
He doesn't want to. He's a begrudging 37-point scorer tonight, but so we'll see what happens, going forward. But I'm excited for it. I've said I don't care about the MVP, and I largely do feel that way because I think it's so close that we start splitting hairs here. But you know what? What he's done is pretty remarkable. We'll see if Giannis gets the 1 seed. I do think that could tilt things. If the Bucks are the 1 seed, that's going to be a pretty powerful case of like, hey, man.
So far behind is the thing, and I'm not really sure why. The straw poll kind of indicates it. Like, there's a big drop-off for him. And I think a lot of the problem is even if Giannis picks up a bunch of firsts, I'm not sure he's going to get enough seconds. Like, that's going to be the point differential, I think, is going to matter more. Typically, I don't even care because I've looked at it, and what winds up happening every year, I've written about this a lot, is that the average share of total possible votes for the winner is usually at the 90th percentile. Like, they usually capture about 90% of what they're supposed to, of what they can capture is the winner. I think this year it's going to be lower. I think it's going to be 70s. I think it's going to be a lot more split this year. I think you're going to have holdouts. I think the straw poll kind of indicates that, but the odds today finally shifted. They shifted a little bit on Tuesday after the straw poll came out, and then after the Bucks beat the Sixers today for the first time this season, Nikola Jokic is the odds-on favorite to win Most Valuable Player.
My prediction: Jokic wins, Giannis takes second, and Embiid takes third. That's my prediction.
That would be my ballot if I had one right now. So
I think it'd be my ballot too.
Okay. That's going to wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. We'll be back for tomorrow's show. I'll probably dive a little bit more into MVP tomorrow. We'll see what we do. On Friday, obviously, the biggie.
The big one, man. Woo!
The biggest game of the season. That's just how it goes. The biggest game of the season is on Friday. They win that, and they are not locked, but they are essentially locked as a playoff team. Which is crazy because like after the Boston loss, everyone's like, oh, it's over. Oh my God, they're gonna be in the play-in. And honestly, the way that they played, they kind of deserve it, but yet here they are. I am begging them to have a normal game, win or lose. It's fine. Just have a normal game. Like if you win, I want to be able to be like, hey, these guys play great, and this guy played great, and this guy.
I want it so bad. I'm not gonna lie. I want it so bad. If they get that win on Friday and all but secure this, it just would be such a cool moment. It would be too cool. I'm fingers crossed, man. I'm hoping for it, and I'm hoping for a big night from Yoke. I'm hoping for a big night from everybody, but I'm hoping for a big night from Yoke to kind of. It almost put a cherry on top of this season.
I'm hoping for a good game and no injuries. That's what I'm always hoping for.
There you go.
I'm a better person. No, I'm not. I'll see. All right, that's going to wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to follow Adam on Twitter at Adam_Mares. You can find me on Twitter at HP Basketball. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Join the comments. People are chatting it up right now. Go ahead and jump in on that. Join the YouTube page. We're almost at 2,000. We're so close.
Read this one. It's too funny.
Thank you guys for doing this for all of us. Both of you have thick Jokic versus Portland series stamina. Okay. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have yourselves a great night. We'll see you again tomorrow night for another episode of Locked On Nuggets.